Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trey Stroko, joined by Adam Eaton. Welcome into Sons of UCF Live at our new time, 9 o'clock. To quote Dolly Drama, Adam, I haven't seen you since last year. How you doing?
Good Lord, Tris. I am doing well. Good to see you. Good to see all of Night Nation. I'm confused at what I'm seeing, though. If I'm looking at this on screen correctly, did you do something to your hair? Something's different. Something's different.
Remember, though, the show I debuted, Hair? That was one of my favorite. That's one of my favorites. I'm sporting the Colorado Buffaloes, the other part of the wager with my nephew. We'll get to the other parts of that I kept people apprised
How much did you wager? I mean, you need to next time. Let's talk this out as a show next time.
It's pancakes. It was push-ups and wear the other team's colors. You know, he had to wear.
Did you have to buy that shirt, or did
no? I told him I wasn't doing that.
Okay. That's a loaner.
That is a loaner. Okay. He's got plenty of hoodies. He'll be all right for a while. So
perfect. Well, glad to have
Red
you
colors.
Back. No, I love the colors. Glad to have you back. Glad everybody else back. Welcome to the new time slot. We may try 9 p.m. We'll see. Some folks are otherwise engaged earlier in the evening, so maybe 9 p.m. allows you to enjoy more time with us. In this particular program, you'll enjoy time with Ben Hazel, Nick Patti. I got a whole fresh batch of what's in the box questions for you, Tracy. A whole brand new batch, and every other shenanigan in between.
I believe on a show I missed, you referred to that segment as where I try to embarrass Trace. I
don't know that's exactly how that went down. I think what I said is it only embarrasses Trace. These questions, though, I feel like are fine. I don't know. These are. You'll be fine.
Well, let's talk a little UCF football news off the top. Sincere Edwards is sincerely committed to the Knights this time around. He makes a return to UCF and his commitment. The Wekiva grad went to Pittsburgh after committing to UCF, but that is one testament of the Knights staff, right? Is that they keep good relationships with players, and if it doesn't quite fit in another location, they are welcome back, even under the Scott Frost staff. And I think this is a good addition. He was quite successful in a season at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think it's a really good addition, Trace. 3 sacks last year for Pittsburgh as a true freshman. Kid, obviously the hometown kid who initially commits to UCF, is committed for a long time, flips at the last minute to Pitt, coming back home. And look, I think this is what you need to do if you're Scott Frost. Find these connections in the local area again. Continue to keep this talent in the state of Florida, in the state of Orlando, as you want to kind of fence it off, if you will. And so this is a good first step of doing that. I think what else Frost has done that's been interesting is he strategically, I think, kept some of the old staff, some of the connections there, brought in some new folks as well. I know the full staff hasn't been announced, hasn't been shared everywhere yet, but I think he's done a nice job of mixing and matching. And look, I think UCF's a destination a lot of kids want to stay, want to play for. And so if it takes them a year to go someplace else and figure out maybe that they want to be back home, it's a price that we have to pay, but I think it'll be worth it. But I do love this addition, particularly for a team that's going to be much different on that front line this year without guys like Lee Hunter and Ricky Barber.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Pittsburgh, 17 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hurries. Not too bad. And maybe we say defensive line early on looking promising.
I'm not falling for that this year. Like Adam of 2024 learned a lot of stuff that Adam in 2025 is not going to repeat, which is I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to assume anything just yet. I'm going to wait and see how things play in the field. I like the pieces we have so far. I have not seen them all play down a football together. So I'm going to be a little bit more measured in my my predictions and my excitement level. But I do like what this staff has done. You and I talked about it with Eric Lopez and around the Kingdom overtime. You're not going and chasing stars right now. They seem to be chasing guys who fit needs, maybe some guys who were overlooked at other locations, maybe some guys who just want an opportunity and fit a mold. And you feel good about maybe getting that new DNA into the building. So let's see how it all pans out. But I'm going to be very tempered this year as opposed to last year when I was booking my travel to Dallas to watch the championship game, which it really would have sucked because I don't know that I would have enjoyed the actual matchup that was in Dallas.
That's true. CBSSports.com Thursday reporting Zach Duvall coming in as strength and conditioning coach. That name sounds familiar. to me.
Zach is back. He was obviously here with Frost and Frost 1.0. I think he coined the phrase "War Daddy Up," and so I saw some former players, Marlon Williams, Mac McLaudermilk, on social media talking about having him back there as well. CBS also reporting Brandon Harris, the brother of former UCF offensive coordinator Tim Harris, who was at FAU, will be named cornerbacks coach again. None of this has been announced by UCF. We still haven't announced the O-line coach, even though there are many reports and stories about who that is. So not sure what the timing looks like there, but if you want to believe CBS Sports, Brandon Harris coming to UCF as well as Zach Duvall for his second tour of duty here.
And every year when there's a new strength and conditioning coach, we hear that strength and conditioning coach is the greatest one
we've ever been
ever.
Yes, I love it. It's a New Year's resolution as old as time. I'm in the best shape ever.
Yeah. So like you, I'm tempered in my expectations because we've been burned by the expectations game before. I think to last year, KJ Jefferson at quarterback.
Yeah,
Boy,
I
did
remember
we
him.
get it wrong. UCF_Zach, a mailbag question that I dragged up off the top of the show. What went wrong? Why do you think KJ didn't work? And it's such an interesting question that we're going to be able to talk about until the quarterback situation is a little more established for UCF. But let me flip it a little bit and ask you, what do you think the record would have been had there not been all of the quarterback changes? If they had just left KJ in there, was there a little too reactionary to his performance, against the Gators, against Colorado? What if they had stayed the course? I think they could have beaten Cincinnati in that home game had they stayed the course.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's the tale of two KJs. The KJ you saw second half of TCU looked like he could figure it out and had the offense humming. The KJ, the other, 19 quarters, didn't seem like he had that figured out. What went wrong with KJ? I don't know that we'll ever really know. And I'm not here to try to impugn somebody's character, but it seems like we didn't get the KJ Gus thought we were going to get. And if that's injury, mechanics, conditioning, whatever it is that maybe all goes into taking it seriously, learning the playbook, I don't know what goes into all that. And I don't know that we'll ever really know for a long time. But do I think we could have won some more games with KJ? Maybe. But if you're not seeing what it is that you think you're seeing out of a quarterback, I applaud a coach making a change. Some might argue he didn't make it fast enough. Previous week, we had a chance to talk to Shane Burnham, who was with UCF during the Heupel days. And he talked a lot about after game one, they knew Brandon Wimbush wasn't the guy. It was Dylan Gabriel. And they made that change, even though Brandon Wimbush
sounds funny to hear.
Imagine putting that together in 2025. That Brandon Wimbush was kind of the bigger name. And so maybe that doesn't always work out. I agree that we didn't quite find the formula. And by the time we did, if we even did, it was a little bit too late. So it just, you swung all in on a quarterback in KJ and it just didn't work out for whatever reason. And I think after that, everything was just kind of chasing it and trying to figure out how you make it right and how you salvage a season.
Between that nutrition center and strength and conditioning, why is it that the KJ arrived on campus stayed essentially the same size all 2024? Well, if he came in weighing more than he did in Arkansas, why didn't he lose a few pounds, get into a little bit better shape with the staff?
Maybe he was waiting for a New Year's resolution, Trace. That's a tough question to answer. I don't want to assume I know KJ's character. The problem with today's day and age of NIL is if one wanted to make the leap, and I'm not saying I do, but if one does, they can make the leap of he got a payday, maybe didn't take it as seriously and didn't train, didn't study, didn't do all the things he had to do, and hence that's what you got. Again, it's an easy leap to make that. Maybe that's true. I don't really know. But we're going to turn the page. Let's turn the page on that, Trace. I mean, KJ Jefferson's out of our lives, right? I mean, I wish him well.
No, I know, but it speaks a lot to the issues of 2024. I mean, it's not the only issue, but getting quarterback wrong really played a significant factor.
It's a great one.
I'm just saying that when you look back now and the move to start EJ Colson and then pulling him out of the game, I mean, there's just a lot of curious decisions over the course of the year. But if KJ had stayed and there was a 6-6 in there, Gus still make the move?
Yeah.
You think?
It's a great what if, right? Because if KJ works out even a little bit and we're 6-6, 6-7, Gus is probably still here, right? There's no Scott Frost, and it's an interesting alternate reality had that move worked out. But I think you can look back at that now and say that one decision was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. Is that one of the sayings? It's probably the decision that ultimately seals the fate of what ends up being Gus Malzahn's tenure at UCF.
I asked on my Twitter poll, grade the quarterbacks in 2024. 55% say D, and most of those said D because of Dylan Risk elevating it from an F, which was another 25%. I threw a B in there because you can list 4 choices. I don't know.
D plus wasn't an option, Trace.
Well, I could have done that, but 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions out of UCF quarterbacks in 2024.
I mean, to be fair, for taking KJ out of the picture, right? To be fair to Jacurri, again, EJ Colson for the minute and a half he played, Dylan Risk. Did they really get the preparation? They were kind of thrown in baptism by fire. Did they really get everything they needed? I mean, so to be fair to those 3 guys, I think they did the best they could with what they were kind of faced with at that point in time. But I agree, it certainly wasn't good enough. And I think we all saw the results on the field.
Let's talk quarterbacks with former Knights quarterback Nick Patti, who joins us in Sons of UCF Live. Nick, Happy New Year to you and your family.
Happy New Year to all. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So you were listening in on that discussion a little bit. Let me pose that question to you that came from UCF_Zach. Why do you think KJ didn't work?
It's a great question. I think you could talk about it a number of ways, and there may likely be a lot of different reasons. I think if you break it down and just look at it from the topic of kind of today's day and age of football and expecting a guy to come in, transfer in, kind of learn the system, get comfortable with his teammates, really not have – he obviously has taken a lot of snaps and has a lot of game experience. But to just walk into a new system and light it up is just a lot to ask, especially when, there's clearly a lot of other question marks and maybe some dissension in direction on the offensive side of the ball. And so, what a terribly difficult thing to have to walk in and produce at that level immediately and then just cold turkey kind of go out and get benched and not get another chance, especially when we weren't, lighting it up. I think it's just peculiar to where you kind of look at that maybe there was a bigger picture going on of some issues on the offensive side of the ball with the other guys playing and every coach having a voice and maybe wanting this guy to get a shot and him go, if he's in there, we're gonna, run the rock like this. And if KJ's in there, this is how we're gonna play. And all along the way, Gus really wanting to be the maestro. Am I making excuses for him? No. It's just incredibly difficult to say that, given 4, 5, 6 games, if it doesn't work in that amount of time, we're moving on, and then we're gonna start experimenting. I think too, I like the point that, if we're a 6-7 win team, KJ stays, that it looks a whole lot different. Also think if he had 2 years here, it also looks a whole lot different, right? If there's like a longer term that we may have had him, that he may have had a different rope, right? They may have changed things. So I just think it's a kind of a product of where we're at today in the game. And sometimes it does work, right? Sometimes it catches lightning and works. And so maybe it's good that it didn't and it wasn't going to, and we don't have them for long, so why not move on? But it was just, I think the one reason why there's still so many question marks is because, like, what were they doing after that, right? What was the goal? What was the plan? And then kind of Dylan Risk was the long-term solution of the other guys that, have some talent. So why did it go wrong? There's a million reasons possibly why, and he didn't play all that well personally, but the offensive play calling was pretty brutal as well, and the rest of it, they were bad up front. They could obviously run the ball, but who knows? But like you guys have said, it's an exciting time to kind of move on from, and we don't have to kind of harbor in it that what are they going to do with him this year and what direction. So we'll see.
Here for now is Dylan Risk, Jacurri Brown, 2 guys we saw in the 2024 season, an incoming quarterback from FAU, Cam Fancher. What do you make of Dylan Risk? Does he have a chance here to earn that starting quarterback job?
I'd say so. I mean, given what I know of the staff and how they do things, I definitely think that he'll have every opportunity to have a role in some capacity. I think that he has the talent to fit what they do and what they want to do. It's certainly an offense that the more talent you have, you can showcase that and light it up. But you don't have to be a world beater, athletically. You don't have to be a Cam Newton to make it work. You have to distribute the ball. You have to know where your playmakers are. You have to hit plays when they're open. In the pass game specifically, they like to use the entire field, which I think, people will remember and enjoy, as opposed to just either a run or a vertical pass. They use the whole field. They use a lot of guys, a lot of personnel groups. And so I think from a quarterback perspective, he can fit there because he doesn't make, a ton of mistakes worldwide, the entire time. But I think he'll have an opportunity. But at the end of the day, too, when a staff comes in, they like to have their guy. And I think that's all told of every staff that comes in, that they like to look for their long-term solution or next step, to come in with them. So I definitely think he'll have an opportunity, but that remains to be seen of who comes in next, who else is in the room.
Well, yeah, Nick, we haven't had a chance to talk to you since the news. Obviously, you played 1 year under Coach Frost in 2016. What are your thoughts on him coming back in sort of the Frost 2.0 era here at UCF?
Extremely excited. I'm optimistic and excited, obviously, as a former player and being around the program for a short time of the meteoric rise. I couldn't be excited that he's back. I think it's easy for a lot of us to get emotional and jump on the bandwagon. I know everyone has mixed opinions. I think why I'm so excited is that I think people think Frost is taking this job and they think he thinks he's going to come in and just do it all over again and that they're going to pick up where they left off. And I don't think that's the case one iota. I really, really believe that this is, yes, definitely a second chance and another go at it. And he'll likely do a lot of things the same way because that's what makes him successful and that's why he's a good ball coach. But I think 100% he understands what he's getting into, where the program is based on where it was, what they need and what he's going to have to do. So I think it's exciting. I think there's a couple other exciting pieces that are coming with him. Specifically the Zach Duvall hire, I think was awesome. And things changed a lot over a couple of years and he's been with he was in LA and he's been a couple other places where you learn a lot about who you are as a coach. And I think that bleeds through in who the next staff is with you and who you hire, who you bring and don't bring, et cetera. So, I'm extremely excited about it. I think it's awesome. And I think UCF, since he's left, has kind of been waiting for him to come back in one way, shape, or form, right? Like waiting for either the next Frost or Frost, right? So we've kind of been in this lull and we've had some exciting hires, but so I think it's good. It's like a good step forward for the program. And I'm a huge believer in Scott Frost. I have a ton of respect and admiration for him as a player and as a man. I think he's just an awesome leader and an incredible guy. So excited for the program that he's back.
Well, you're one of the more unique qualified persons to answer this question. If Curry Brown or Dylan Risk called you and said, Nick, what's it like to play quarterback for Scott Frost? What do I have to do? What skills do I have to bring? How do I be successful in his system? What would you tell them? I'd
say that maybe this goes for everybody. Learning how to operate his system is very important, and not necessarily learning the playbook, right? Because you got to know the playbook no matter who you're playing for. But they have a system that is very important to know how to operate. So, and I say that in the capacity of this, they'll run one concept with 5 different personnel groups in the game plan. So the call sheet for them is not a million plays. It doesn't have a ring on it where he's got a bunch of options. But he has 5 or 6 different personnel groups that you run the same look out of. How that operates with personnel coming and going, still keeping, speed, making they're pretty complicated with some of their run calls from the quarterback because they can do things kind of tricky. So I think the biggest thing is learning how the offense runs in that capacity of break it down, compartmentalize it. It can seem complicated, but you can really, really simplify it. Which is how they are able to create some mixed matches and be good on the offense side of the ball, but still be fast and operate, smoothly and utilize all of their talent. That's how they can do that. So I think it's, to have a much shorter answer for you, leverage your talent and know how the offense does that for you, because that's how the whole thing's designed.
Well, how helpful then will it be to have a guy like Mackenzie Milton as the quarterback coach who operated that same system and is now in charge of maybe teaching it to those guys?
Incredibly helpful. And that was the year I was there with Mackenzie. having someone that learned it as a player and now will teach it as a coach, which I don't know that there's all that many cases of that out there. Especially being there while KZ was learning it and how we all learned it. And I think it'll be huge. Now, how he is as a coach, I haven't been around him and we don't know. And that's a whole different skill. It's a whole different muscle. But his ability to have seen it as a player and to be able to kind of translate that, I think will be incredible. And it's a unique opportunity. It'd be really, really cool to see. And it'll also be cool, I think, to see, he's not that far removed from playing. So I think a lot of what they're going to learn is probably going to be him on tape. They're probably going to be watching him do it. And it'll be interesting to see if some of his traits don't bleed through to them in the quarterback room and on the offense. And so I think that'll be a really unique thing. So pretty cool, though.
3 guys in the quarterback room. What's the right number going into spring camp?
That's a good question. I think if you ask the quarterbacks that are in camp, it's probably like
fewer.
Yeah. Some will say 1 and some will say 8 because of reps. But no, I think, it's a good question. I think 3 is too little, 5 is too much. And I say that from 2 perspectives. One, how many real true contenders do you have to be a starting quarterback at this level of college football? Is tricky to say that you could have more than, truly 2 guys that you can plan your offense around and run through camp and get people enough reps. But also for the dynamic of the room, 3 guys is a little light, right? To maybe have some perspectives, to have some guys that, you can watch film with and plan with and travel with, et cetera. I think for the culture of the quarterback room and that kind of dynamic, if you have the right guys, of course, 4 is a really strong number. 5 is I say too many, but it depends. You probably have a walk-on in there that's a scout team guy, but or maybe a special teams add in. And so I think 3 is too little and 5's pushing it, but can be good with the right 5.
What's the one move so far that Scott Frost has made that has most impressed you?
Coming back. No, I honestly, the Zach Duval news to me is awesome. I think it remains to be seen. I also am I hate these words, surprised. The McKenzie hire was impressive to me because I think that people maybe thought that was a possibility, but it's not like he's had all that much experience as a coach. And
it happened fast.
It happened very, very fast. And I think seeing how that all unfolded and that it was really kind of seemingly a layup decision for him. Yeah. And I say this with respect to him, but like coming off of a failure at Nebraska and getting fired, your next gig is pretty important, right? So you can't really take a ton of risks, especially at a quarterback coach, right? So, not that McKenzie's a risk or anything like that, but it's not like he's a tenured guy where you're bringing in someone that has a bunch of experience on how to develop quarterbacks, right? And so now Frost can do that himself. He played the position. He's very involved with the quarterback, so he can carry some of that load. But we've all seen what the job of a head coach is nowadays. It's not much coaching quarterbacks. And so I was really impressed by that, just by taking that leap of faith and saying, I believe in this for whatever reason, and I'm going to do it. And so that was pretty impressive. And the recruiting trail as well, how fast they've been able to catch fire, I think has been pretty neat and impressive. We'll see how good the guys are that they're signing up, but the activity of it to jump in and get to work that fast has been pretty impressive to me.
Nick, you mentioned Zach Duval a few times. What is it about that hire that you like?
That was like, I think again for us that were there when he got there was a really volatile time in the program for a lot of guys that were there for a long time, and he may have played one of the more pivotal roles in the rise for the program than anybody in the building. I say that from a culture perspective more than anything. Now, obviously, there was the strength version of it, and there was all the rest and nutrition, and we did things a hell of a lot different than we did before. But the culture part of it was the biggest. And, you spend the most time with those guys as players, right? The off season, you're with them, you see the coaches, but the most time you spend is with the strength coach. The most communication you have is with the strength coaches, their whole staff. They were likely the most integral role in the transition when they came in. And his approach to guys and their approach, to the culture perspective, the way that he coaches people really, really hard. He's a really hard-nosed, aggressive teacher. He's no soft human. And he's kind of he's a gritty, hard dude, but he has an incredible heart. He's a great teacher. He's a great leader. He met us all where we were at the time. He got to know us all very personally. And they came in to mold, lead, and guide us, and it worked out, right? I think that bled through in the development of Mackenzie and Shaquem and guys that were there for a long time, and then all of a sudden, boom, and it was Zach that got it out of a lot of guys, right? And so I'm excited to see kind of where he can duplicate that and replicate that. I just have a lot of faith in him. Obviously from a strength and nutrition standpoint too, the guy he's phenomenal at his job. He's really, really intelligent. He's good at his craft, takes a lot of pride in it. But from the culture perspective, I think it's a dynamite hire because of what it did for us on that experience.
All right. Well, I got you here, Nick. I have to ask you about the first ever college football playoff. How have you enjoyed this new format? How have you enjoyed the results? Obviously, all the first round bye teams are now out of it. A team in Boise that you knew really well, obviously fought hard, didn't make it. What do you make of so far first year of the new playoff? Yeah,
no doubt. It's so many opinions too of it, right? But rightfully so. I think that there's always going to be something wrong every year. Someone's going to be left out or something's going to need to be changed. It's just like the nature of our world, really. Something's got to be. It's been really exciting, first and foremost. I mean, it's been pretty incredible. It's been awesome format. If anything, we're moving in the direction of it being right for college sports. It's created a monster. I think something's got to be done about the first round buys and who gets them and what that looks like, while keeping conference championships meaning something. But, for Oregon to get the first seed in Ohio State, no matter if they got a bye or not, when you're clicking, I don't know that you even really want to buy, a bunch of young college kids. And if you're clicking as a team, a couple of weeks off might be a disadvantage, man. So it's like, it's 6-1, half dozen the other, because it's, but you get Penn State, who, yes, looks really, really good, but it's got a pretty easy road in. I don't want to say easy, it's not easy to beat those teams. They're good squads, but it's a little bit different structure for them. So I think that's the one thing I've noticed that seems to be something that's got to click. But no, if nothing else, it's been dynamic and exciting, man. I think it's pretty awesome.
Can't let you go without the talk that's going on in the chat room. Are these macrame light fixtures behind you? What's going on here?
Yeah, I figured I'd come in here and after the macrame debacle last week. So, once again, I didn't design my kitchen, but yeah, it's got a natural touch. But yeah, I figured next week I got to find something else in here. Yeah, whenever I'm on there.
Well, Nick, I can't let you go. Do you happen to notice what? And I'll take the banner down in case you can't see. Do you happen to notice what Trace is wearing tonight?
I did. Yeah, I was just with you. I actually noticed your face pretty immediately with that, but yeah, it had to be some sort of reason. I thought you were going to tell us you're moving to Colorado or something.
Nah, my nephew goes to the University of Colorado. There was a wager. UCF lost poorly, as you recall, and this is part of the penalty.
Yeah. Hey, man, the guy pays his debts. I like it. A lot of respect for it.
He does.
Pay the bills. All right, Nick Patti, thank you for being with us. Appreciate your insights as always. Happy New Year.
Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.
Thanks,
See you guys soon.
See you.
Macrame. That's a word I didn't
think
was going to ever appear in a show, and now has appeared again.
I did look it up, but I forgot already. What do you want me to do?
Yeah. Interesting doings in the Big 12. Arizona State's out. Men's basketball is well underway. Let's turn to Jeff Allen for our Big 12 Minute.
The magical season for the Arizona State Sun Devils came to an end in the quarterfinals of the college football playoff on New Year's Day as they fell to the Texas Longhorns in 2 overtimes by a 39-31 score at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. ASU had to overcome a fast start by Texas, who responded to the Sun Devils' opening drive field goal with 2 touchdowns in a little over a minute. Cam Scadaboo put ASU on his back with 130 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, and also threw a halfback pass for a TD to lead the Sun Devils back from a 17-3 deficit to tie the game at 24 and force overtime. Despite being on the losing team, Scadaboo was named the game's MVP. Conference play now underway in men's basketball as the opening games were played to close out the 2024 calendar year. The first action of 2025 takes place this weekend with the following matchups. On Saturday, Oklahoma State at West Virginia, 12 noon on CBS Sports Network. BYU takes on Houston, 2 o'clock on ESPN+. Iowa State hosts Baylor, 2 o'clock on CBS. Arizona battles Cincinnati, 2:30 on ESPN2. Kansas State is at TCU at 4 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Colorado visits Arizona State, 5 o'clock on ESPN+. Texas Tech tangles with Utah, 7 o'clock on ESPN+. And the weekend slate finishes up on Sunday here in Orlando as the Knights host Kansas at 4 o'clock on ESPN+. UCF will be looking to serve up another upset of the Jayhawks as they did a year ago. With your Big 12 Minute, I'm Jeff Allen.
Jeff Allen, welcome back in 2025. Men's basketball, 1-0. How about that victory over Texas Tech in Lubbock? Pretty impressive for the Knights, Adam.
It was a solid win. Obviously, they jumped out to an early lead, and as college basketball is wanting to do, Trace, Texas Tech makes a run. UCF gets a little bit dicey at times, but they hold off a great closeout at the end of the game, made the free throws when it counted, a nice road win. We talked to our next guest last week, or 2 weeks ago, rather. He mentioned you've got to hold serve at home and steal a couple of these games on the road. Obviously, right out of the chute, you love to see UCF stealing a game on the road against Texas Tech.
Yeah, let's get a little more insight from our men's basketball beat reporter. He is Andrew Cherico.
Oh, you want Andrew Cherico? I got Ben Hazel instead. We'll get Andrew Cherico instead.
I wish.
Ben just itching to get in here.
Well, welcome in, Ben. Threw me a curveball. Ben with a bow tie.
You know it. You know it. Big Dubs get bow ties. That's what we do.
That is correct. We exchanged texts during that game. Darius Johnson, that's what you want from a senior leader in the second half.
That is all you can ask for from a senior leader in the second half. I mean, coming in at halftime, having 7 points, finishing with 24 on the game, making the free throws down the stretch, finishing in the paint. I mean, the guy did it all. But what really stood out was at the end of the game, they're running plays, and this is the senior part of just what you expect from a guy like him and why we're just so thankful to have him on our team this year. And that's, he's guarding the point guard. The guy's clearly trying to drag him away to set up three-point shots because that's the only way they can get into it. He recognizes that on the court, on the fly, and just leaves the ball and goes and guards the guy shooting it and contests the shot. It's like he's guarding 2 guys to help win games. I mean, he's really locked in and focused on what needs to happen to give his team the best chance to win. I mean, I'm extremely proud of him. Huge win to start the conference. But this group, they walk with a different swagger. So they're definitely know there's more work to be done.
I'm interested in your perspective, something that we've talked about, Mustafa getting into some foul trouble. As you said, he's a freshman, right? He classified and came in early. Help us understand what to expect from him as conference play continues.
I mean, you're already seeing flashes, and that's what I really like about him, is that he doesn't lack confidence. Even with what, he kind of gives up some size, gives up some weight in the paint. That's why he's getting in foul trouble. And being a shot blocker that's young, that's just something that's going to happen. I mean, he's ultra aggressive, but he has a little bit of calmness and confidence. You see him, take some shots down the stretch. He shot a bad 3-point shot, but I think to me, I was like, hey, it's a loud gym. This is a huge moment. And he didn't shy away from it. So I think you're just going to see him be a little more savvy with his positioning, fighting early, just so these guys can't bury him. So he can, basically finish the full 40 minutes, because down the stretch, I think he'll be a huge advantage if he can stay on the court just because his size, and he does have good touch. So I don't worry about him at the free throw line as much.
But I kind of want to go in the game inside the game. You mentioned sort of the defense. Last possession for Texas Tech, they're going to run a dribble handoff. They have Chance McMillan shooting 50% from 3. You mentioned Darius kind of sags off. 2 other guys fly at him. He shoots an air ball. How much of that is kind of dedicated in the huddle prior to that? How much is that as Coach Dawkins and the coaching staff recognizing who the shooter is and kind of giving the team the direction on how to best handle that last play?
It starts in the fall. It starts over the summer, actually. So those situations are something that happens throughout the season, time and time again. Plays where you're like, yo, I have to take away the 3-point line. And the number one thing that you're asking for your guys is to be able to recognize where they're trying to go to get that 3-point shot off. And that's what I loved. And we were texting back and forth, and it was like, did we see any growth from what we saw against LSU? And that's the growth, right? Like, guys are starting to recognize things on the fly. and do what's necessary. I know the standard defensive positioning calls for you to just jump to the ball, but we have senior-led guys that know down the stretch, that goes out the window. We just have to do what's necessary to win the game. If that means all 5 of us run to one guy because that's the only guy that's going to shoot it, so be it. And I think everybody's bought into that, and that's why they were able to hold off on and get a huge road win to start the conference.
Ben, what do you do with Jalen Sellers? Obviously, he's a scoring machine, but he's kind of easing his way back in. He's kind of in that 6-man role right now. I think he gives some good energy off the bench, but obviously he's talented enough to be a starter. If you're Coach Dawkins, how do you get him back in the lineup? Do you bring him back in the starting rotation? How do you handle his return to action?
He's on a minutes restriction, so you got to be leery about his back, right? Like, you don't want to just throw him in the fire and because with him, he's not going to tone back how he plays. So you gotta protect him from himself. But the thing that I liked was that his presence was felt in every aspect of the game. He only played about 14 minutes, but he had about 7 points, had a steal, had a rebound, had an assist. Like, that is how he plays. And I think that is contagious, right? When Texas Tech started to make a run, even though he wasn't in the game, you could see him yelling at guys. You could see him clapping it up. You could see him being extremely vocal in the timeouts. So it just gave me even more confidence. Like, Darius and Jalen, they know what it takes, and it's starting to show with the other guys. I mean, you saw Keyshawn. You see how guys are really getting after it on every possession, every shot, every rebound. And those are the small things that, give you a chance to win down the stretch.
Only a couple of guys were on this UCF team when they got blown out at Kansas State a year ago. What does a win like this with this group mean for confidence now? These guys have to believe they can take on anybody in the Big 12.
Oh, it's huge. Road wins are huge for just that, right? Like, when you talk about going into a loud gym in the opponent's arena, a place that nobody's really that familiar with. Like you said, we have guys that weren't in the conference, didn't play Texas Tech. Everything's extremely new, but guys stepped up to the plate with confidence. And I think that's the biggest difference is everybody's starting to accept their role, but they're extremely confident in what they do. I mean, you've seen Debo Coleman have flashes. You see Keyshawn now kind of starting to hit his stride at the right time. You want Juice to kind of get his flow back, but we have an extremely confident group. Like, that's one thing that I felt from that Texas Tech game. They didn't lose that confidence. They weren't worried even when Texas Tech was making a run back. They just settled in and really hunkered down.
What are you seeing from this team with one conference game in now from a defensive standpoint? Do you like where they're going defensively, or it's still a work in progress?
It's a work in progress. I mean, when you're giving up 15 offensive rebounds, you're definitely a work in progress. But I think they're understanding that it has to be all 5 guys. Like, in the past few years, we've had kind of the 1 or 2 bigs that can really dominate the glass for us. This year, it's going to have to be done by committee. So even guys like Juice, him walking away from a game with 0 rebounds, like, we're going to need everybody to hit that glass as hard as they can. Because with all the minutes that they're playing, like, there's really no reason that you can't get one. I mean, I had averaged a few rebounds and I was not a big bruiser. So, it's possible.
You weren't? What?
No.
This is news.
I was a big don't touch me guy.
Fair. Ben, what do you make of Benny Williams' role in this team? I think he kind of got miscast trying to guard JT Toppin, which it seems like it's going to be a task for anybody, right? But he's kind of a stretch 4, but they have him kind of playing inside a little bit. He's got a bit of an outside game. How do you see Benny Williams kind of fitting into this mix?
He's one of those guys for us that I think is going to have a big game, like he's had in the non-conference, that's going to lead to a win for us, right? I think for him, it's just matchups, right? He's fitting in that center position, especially when Mustafa gets in foul trouble, because he is strong enough and athletic enough. But that does put him in different positions, especially on the offensive end. I think he's just getting comfortable, but I think the right matchup in the right game will be the thing that leads to him really kind of breaking out and looking comfortable. But he brings a different versatility to our offense, right? Like, you have Mustafa trying to catch lobs. He could still catch lobs, but he might pick and pop, pick to the short corner and just shoot that jump shot, which is something that teams are going to have to kind of make a decision on what they're going to take away and what they're going to give up.
Kansas comes to town this weekend. They come off a loss at home against West Virginia. Is there any credence as a player to a team being angry or fired up after losing a game? Like, do you think there's any credence to them coming in more motivated on Sunday because of what happened to them against West Virginia?
100%. I mean, yeah, they're going to come in, but, don't call it an upset. Like, the way Kansas looks, like, they're really good. Don't get it twisted, but hey, this is a conference game. Everybody's going to bring, every game's important to every single team. So yes, it's the extra motivation and all that, but it is what it is. We're just going to have to throw the ball up and may the best team win. And I don't think that really changes, just because they lost. I feel like as a UCF guy, I'm like, that doesn't give you new players.
Texas Tech was a 12.5-point favorite. Did that line surprise you?
It did surprise me. It surprised me a lot, actually. And I think I saw it at 14 at one point, right? And I was like,
in conference play, right?
Exactly. I was like, wow, the disrespect level is really, really high. I mean, I understand we all got new guys, but so do they. And I don't know where their wins came from for them to have 14 points on us. But I wish I had a little bit of more money because I should have taken it.
Knights beating the paint on this one, 52-28. Pretty sizable disadvantage. Cause for concern there?
A little bit. I mean, it's something that, hey, you can't be good at everything. I think that's one thing that I learned from a Michigan State coaching clinic that I had seen. And it was that you kind of have to pick what your team is going to hang your hat on. It can only be three things, right? Like you can't be a great rebounding team, a fast-paced team, a great half-court team. So that's not going to be our number one strength. We just have to find a way to manage it to get to our strengths, which is playing fast, getting the ball into the right guy's hands and letting them create. That's our strength. It's just as long as we can limit the damage there, I think we'll continue to see, positive outcomes.
But I know he's still a young player, but what do we have to do to get Mustafa out of foul trouble? In my view, he seems like he's reaching and chopping down more. I don't need him leading the league in steals. I need him leading the league in blocks. How do you kind of work that out of a young player like that?
It's every day. And I know Coach Mamadou does it every single day. They do a wall-up drill. They work on it all the time. But, there's nothing that can really throw you off more than just a guy dunking it or, guy laying it on you, getting an and one, the crowd going crazy, and then that stuff kind of goes out the window. So I think he's learning the importance of it. And I think that's something that doesn't just settle in right away with young guys. Small things like, hey, even when the guy has the ball, you see it, just keep your arms up vertically, and then that'll negate a lot of those dumb fouls that he's getting reaching down. Because as a 7-footer, getting fouls, reaching fouls is just something that you just can't have.
Well, plus, and you can speak to this better than anybody, how hard is it to officiate a guy that size, right? There's not too many people walking the earth, 7'2", 7'3". How hard is it an official to officiate a guy of that size, of that strength, of everything that he brings to the table?
I mean, for him, I would say it would be harder for more physical guys. Like Ibrahim is a guy that would be a little bit harder to officiate because of his physicality and size. Mustafa's not so much just because he's really wiry. So those long reaches, I can see it from a mile away. If I'm a referee, like you swiping down your long arms, I can see your arm coming for forever. So that's an automatic a lot of the time for referees. And that's the thing that I don't think he understands. But for him, he's not a big, bulky guy. So I don't think that's typically where the challenge comes for referees, is trying to, kind of gauge what's a true offensive foul for a guy that's throwing his weight around at 250 versus 215.
We know the coaching cliches, one game at a time. We're going to enjoy this one. The Knights chartered back. But take us inside Johnny Dawkins' mindset. They spend New Year's Eve on that charter, coming home after a big victory. Now what? How do they shake that off? There's the confidence that comes from it, but you've got Kansas, a wounded Kansas, coming to town. What's the mindset? What's practice like this week for Johnny Dawkins?
Practice is the same as it always is. And the one thing with Coach Dawkins is he's won national championships and been to Final Fours. So winning a conference game will never be that big of a deal to him. So coming into practice, he's like, hey, we did what we're supposed to do. Now it's time to lock in. And I don't think the process will change. I mean, the luxury of wins is that film might be a little bit shorter, a little less passionate, maybe, but that's the only added, everything else is going to be the same. The scout's going to be the same. They'll probably scrimmage. Coach will still do, an inter squad scrimmage of the guys that didn't play. Right. So, you got to stay locked in.
On Around the Kingdom this week, we had our player draft. We were going to go 2 each, Adam, Eric Lopez, and myself, but we went 3. I want you to evaluate these drafts. Okay, it's total points on the season. Adam's got Jordan Ivey, Curry, Jalen Sellers, J.J. Taylor. That's
Oh, that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough. But
That was a third pick. He was 3 and 4. Coming around.
yeah, it's the JJ pick. It's the JJ pick, and Juice didn't give you the greatest start. But you got two solid, scoring pieces for us. So
Okay.
I see what you did there.
Okay.
And JJ
All right.
was a sleeper, especially non-conference. But I think in conference, Coach Dawkins always gets a little tighter.
Okay.
Eric Lopez, Keyshawn Hall, and the Williams, Mikey and Benny.
I think I would go with Juice and Jalen versus the Benny, Mikey, and Keyshawn pick, but they're leading right now. So,
But that means you're going to award your favorite here is
Probably.
me with Darius, Mustafa, and Debo.
for sure, that's
a solid draft right there.
fair. That's not fair. Those were not
He had
fair.
first pick. It's not my. He had first pick. What do you want me to do? I had to go value him.
1 and 6.
Well, you had Darius.
I mean,
you had Darius first pick.
I understand that, but great value at 6 with Mustafa.
The thing is that I think all of those guys are going to have a big moment. You know what I mean? For us to have some of the success throughout the conference. So they're all going to be called upon. So I hope they all can, I hope this is like a high scoring battle that you got here.
All right, Ben. Bowtie Ben is back. We want to see him in that bow tie again next week. Game on Sunday against Kansas, Colorado. We get 2 games before we talk to you again.
Yep, I'll be there. So if anybody's there, definitely come say hello. Can't wait.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate you.
Ben.
All right, fellas, have a good one.
See you.
The Knights have not had a media availability since the December 21st game. That's likely to change on Friday. But the recap of this one by our beat reporter, Andrew Cherico now.
The magical season.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. My name is Andrew Cherico, and welcome back to your Sons of UCF Men's Basketball Minute. The Knights made a statement on Tuesday going on the road to beat the Texas Tech Red Raiders 87-83. UCF jumped out to an 18-point lead in the second half, but the lead later dwindled into single digits with few minutes left to play. But thanks to the help of a near-perfect shooting night from UCF forward Keyshawn Hall and a strong veteran presence of UCF guard Darius Johnson, they were able to help secure the Knights' first win in their first game in conference play. Let's hear from head coach Johnny Dawkins.
Ultimately players got to make plays. And I thought, whether it was Keyshawn or DJ, I thought those guys made the plays that were in front of them at the time. And that's all you can ask.
UCF starts off conference play 1-0, but there isn't such thing as an easy Big 12 matchup, as next up for the Knights, they tip off against currently number 7 ranked Kansas Jayhawks Sunday, January 5th at 4 p.m. at home. Now everybody knows what happens last time Kansas came to Addition Financial Arena. Can UCF do it again? But on that note, my name is Andrew Cherico, and thank you for watching your Sons of UCF Men's Basketball Minute.
Is there a court storming with a win?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, first game
back.
of the year. Kansas, obviously, a traditional blue blood. Off of last year. I think so. I think kids want to have fun, right? And that's a fun thing to do. I think you get a court storming.
Gotcha. You stayed busy this week, logging some interviews. You caught up with a reporter for The Athletic today talking about Scott Frost.
Yeah, obviously, we've got a lot of time to cover Trace, but I think there's still a lot of questions that we all have about his time in Nebraska, what didn't work, kind of what he learned. We haven't had a chance to talk to Scott Frost since that opening press conference and maybe hear some of his thoughts here. So I caught up with Mitch Sherman, who does work for The Athletics, been covering Nebraska for a long time, to get a little bit more depth on what happened at Nebraska and kind of what he sees from Scott Frost here. We'll have this out on YouTube probably the next couple of days here, but here's a quick snippet of my conversation with Mitch Sherman.
In talking to coaches who worked for him and people who were around him, I found that, sure, I think there were some issues. I think there were some difficulties personally, but he continued to coach and he continued to come in. And I think recruiting was at times a burden for him. It was tough. He did it. You have to do it as a head coach. Things are different today. Things are different at UCF. The situation that he's in at UCF, I think some of the problems that he had at Nebraska, whether it was on the field or off the field or away from, the day-to-day of the job, so much of that just like it doesn't translate. Like, I heard at times a couple of instances during Frost's time at Nebraska, like people who were around him at both places would say like, there was the UCF Scott who was like this cool guy, who seemed like kind of carefree and, just at times like he just let it all flow. And I think he could, a part of that's because he can walk around at UCF or in the city or in the state of Florida and not have everyone looking at him and everyone knowing who he is. And he couldn't do that at Nebraska. So it was like there was the UCF Frost, and then there was the guy that they saw at Nebraska who was burdened by a lot of things that didn't bother him there because they didn't exist there.
I feel tempted to pull one of those blocks like it's a Jenga.
It was a very nice backdrop for Mitch, but he gets some good insight on Frost's time in Nebraska, some of the ups and downs, some of the challenges he faced, and what his advice would be for Coach Frost as he comes back to UCF for a second time. So stay plugged into our YouTube channel. If you subscribe, by the way, that's no problem for you because you'll get the video as soon as we decide to post it.
Another thing to subscribe to is the newsletter. You've been doing a great job with that.
Thanks, Trace. Yeah, I love writing. It's always a fun hobby. This last newsletter, we've got the top 5 interviews from the 2024 year and the Sunny Awards. Usually we do a vote, Trace, but I know most of us want to forget 2024. And if I asked you who the best player was, you'd probably tell me to go pound sand. So I did it myself this year. So you get our superlatives, our Sunny Awards, top 5 interviews from 2024, and some other fun stuff in there as well too. So that's the website on screen there to subscribe. It's also on our Twitter page as well. So give us a subscription. I just got noticed that our winner for the t-shirt and got his shirt, he sent it to a picture of that to me. I'll post it on social media. So maybe we'll do another contest if you subscribe to the newsletter.
By the way, on that interview with Mitch, I like the font you're using on there.
That's the old Suns Today font. That's the old Suns Today font. Whenever we're not doing a show, I don't know what to do. I don't know what backdrop to use. So I'm trying some. It's 2024 or 2025. Right? Let's try some new stuff.
It's 2024.
I don't know what year it is. Who does? It's been a long day.
Let's go around and look at some news and notes around the kingdom.
My name is Jalen Sellers with UCF men's basketball. I play shooting guard, and let's go around the kingdom.
Got good hair. I love his hair.
An extreme close-up on that one, too.
Women's basketball. They fall to 0-2 in Big 12 play. They lost 80-58 at number 18 West Virginia. Hey, that's improvement, though. They lost by 40 to TCU in their opener.
They were down like 50-16 at halftime or something. It was rough.
They had 10 points after the first quarter, and I said, well, the pace there. Then they got 6 in the second quarter. I thought, third quarter, 2 points? Are we going back? Hot seat here for Satia Messer?
It's not looking pretty. I mean, to be fair, I know we do resources. I don't know what kind of resource we're getting there, but certainly you'd hope we'd have a more competitive team. Again, maybe you don't win every game, but to be getting blown out in games and not be competitive so far, that's a tough look.
Saturday against Arizona at 2, then they travel out to Boulder to face Colorado on Wednesday. Wide receiver Kobe Hudson joins running back RJ Harvey as a NFL Combine invitee. Kobe also accepts a Hula Bowl invitation. That would be Saturday, January 11th in the Bounce House. And late Thursday, offensive lineman Amari Kite announced that he would be playing in the Hula Bowl. Eric Lopez and I back this week. We had mentioned the draft that we had as part of Around the Kingdom overtime. But let's enjoy a clip now. Elo and I on Around the Kingdom.
We're going back to a bowl game. Remember this, Trace? Once upon a time.
In football, you're predicting here at the beginning of 2025 bowl game.
Let's go. Everybody's all down and
You're really leaning into Scott Frost 2.0.
Do you remember what happened to the original? No expectations, winless season, no bowl game, no hope. Nobody even heard of you at that time, Trace. And what happened? Scott Frost led him to a bowl game.
Nobody had even heard of me.
No, not like they do now.
I will tell you, some people had heard of me in different circles. By the way, no expectations. He just said expectations, didn't he?
He did. He did bowl game expectations for Eric Lopez. Why not? Let's have some fun with it. But I wouldn't bet my mortgage on a bowl appearance for UCF this season.
No, I'd rather put the mortgage on 14 points traveling to Lubbock for men's basketball. All right. Back from Denver area, celebrating the holidays. My nephew kept tabs on me with the pancakes. I sent pictures out on social media. I did not start off well making pancakes, by the way. Burned a couple, a little crispy. 27 of these. By the way, I like pancakes just fine.
Yeah.
But after about half of them, I was over that whole project. This was over several days of eating pancakes, and I was taking photos and videotaping and sent over. I said, speed up the push-ups. He says, well, I've got it down to 4 minutes. We're not running 4 minutes of me doing half-ass push-ups. We can say that now at the 9 o'clock hour.
We
right?
can. Let it fly, Trace. No, 4 minutes of push-ups. I did watch all 4 minutes, though. It was exhilarating. But I have trimmed that all down to 23 seconds of Trace Trelko paying off his debt to society.
One more, Uncle, come on! That's 270!
All right, I paid. I'm waiting now. I'm waiting. Is UCF Mike in there? Is he?
I thought I saw Mike in.
I'm waiting for the critiquing of all the push-ups and all the technique, and I'm waiting for all that to happen.
I mean, Dolly's already got a clip prepared. I think. Yeah, I think he's already working his magic. Elbows are flaring a little bit, but I'll look at. You know what? You did your part. I appreciate it. I saw the whole Megillah, if you will. There was dogs running around that place.
How about that dog knocking me off my stride?
There was a lot of a lot of interesting locations. I saw you change some rooms a few times. You got to get used to new settings. That was an arduous 4-minute video that I had. I have the full, maybe Suns Plus. Is that only Suns? We released that? No.
I said, Kyle, can you get this to 30 seconds? He goes, it's 4 minutes. He goes, he's always thinking. He goes, you can release that on your YouTube. Nobody wants to watch this. Nobody cares.
I say we put it to a vote. No. Clay Pasco, put it on the poll.
No.
Trace Trelko 4-minute push-up video. Yes or no?
No.
Or no or yes if it's Trace. I'm sorry.
That is a sad. That's good. UCF plays Colorado men's basketball next Wednesday.
Yeah.
And Kyle's popping off already. He does want to engage the audience in a challenge.
Yeah.
Well, Unks, you're a man of your word. You did the push-ups. You ate the pancakes. Now it's time to wear some CU Boulder apparel. I think we should do a new punishment. I'm challenging you to CU versus UCF men's basketball. I want everyone to leave some comments what their ideas are for the punishment. I'm calling you out. And 2 years from now, we're going to play football again. I'm calling you out for that too. So leave some comments, leave some likes for what you guys want to see next. Let's make it happen.
I like how he just assumes that UCF is going to lose to Colorado.
Well, I just like the fact that this video looked like it was shot in 2025 versus the last time. Looked like it's
we're not quite sure what happened there. I don't know.
I'm glad that Kyle got his photography skills back down. There's some shaved head. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, let the audience decide here. So another duel in your family here.
Well, let me tell you what I'm not agreeing to. I'm not agreeing to pancakes.
Well, see, that was you did like one per point. I think it's going to be yes or no.
Did you think they were going to lose by 27? No,
I did not. No. But protect against the downside, my friend.
All right. Drop it in the comments. We will entertain something before Wednesday when UCF knocks off the Buffaloes at the arena. All right. New year. Same Brian W. Peterson. Let's open that mailbag.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
I haven't seen him since last year either, Dolly.
Oh, jeez. Oh, boy.
Mr. Matt Dolan, what do you want more for UCF football? A college football invitational championship or a Pop-Tarts Bowl victory? I'll tell you what, Pop-Tarts people lean into it every way spectacularly, right? They get more brand notice for that. And Mayo people have a say in things, but the Pop-Tart people do a good job.
Look, if I was in the marketing field, I'd be on LinkedIn trying to find anybody who worked on that Pop-Tart Bowl to steal them for my organization, because they've figured out the rhythm. You know, everything from the field design to Pop-Tarts taking off their cellophane wrapping to Pop-Tart.
It was a little provocative, wasn't it?
I mean, listen, Trace, a Pop-Tart to appear from the dead on the scoreboard. I mean, they've figured out the brand marketing piece. So
the trophy is a toaster.
it didn't work very well, though, because it's all in the booth. Those things just kind of fly out at you. I don't know if you need that.
Are you with Pop-Tarts heated? Just room temperature?
I prefer heated. I mean, if I have to go room temp, I will, but I prefer, a quick little 10-second in the toaster situation. I don't need them piping hot, but I don't mind a little crisp, little warm to them.
Gotcha. Riley Carey 16. How do you like Frost's staff so far? I think the Boo Birds were out on the defensive coordinator, but by and large, so far so good, I'd say, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't know a lot about some of these guys, right? Steve Cooper. I full disclosure, I've been trying to find somebody to give us some insight on Steve Cooper, and he's like a man of mystery. I can't find anybody who knows anything about him from any of the stops he's been at so far. So we don't know a bunch about these guys and how the staff will gel together. I think Scott said he'd be deliberate with this staff, and he certainly has done that. Here we are, almost coming on 3.5 weeks since his hire, and we still have some open slots as far as I can tell. I don't know who's coaching special teams, so. I mean, I'm okay with it. We'll see how it kind of works out. But I still think, again, I'm not going to get excited just yet. Seems like a lot of quality guys. Let's see how they work together.
That's Scott 88513. Do you think Risk is going to be the starting quarterback next season? We heard from Nick Patti earlier. I like him over Jakari and the FAU guy.
I mean, to be fair, Scott Frost offered Jakari Brown when he was still at Nebraska. So there's something about Jakari that Frost liked back then. Does that still translate to now? I don't know. I'm just going to play the odds and do the math of basically you're asking me risk or the field. I'll take the field because I imagine at least 1 to 2 of the quarterbacks are going to come in. So I'll take the odds of basically 4 versus 1 on this one. And I'll take the field over risk.
I like the kid's moxie though. And I
don't
think
disagree.
Mackenzie Milton's going to like it too. At @blackgold_ed. Last year, a lot of early season optimism about UCF hoops. I'm seeing it again this year. Is this year's team actually going to follow through and deliver? They may not have a better record. I think it's a better team.
That's a really great point. I do think this is an improved team over last year. I think Johnny has them playing at a really good pace right now. Defensively, I think there's still some things they have to clean up a little bit, but it's the Big 12. It's the toughest conference in all of America in college basketball. Everybody makes a run, and every game is going to be a dogfight. There's no easy game on this schedule where you say, oh, we're playing Temple, that's a W. We're playing Tulane, that's a W. There's no easy game on the schedule. So I do think this can be an improved team, but the challenge is that improvement might not come with the results that we're all looking for.
Yeah. In our perception of this season, if they'd not blown that lead to LSU, right? It might have been flirting with the top 25 ranking. And I think that's the sort of doubt that crept into people's minds that maybe they didn't believe they were the real deal because they got kind of thumped in that early game in that West Virginia.
I don't love the fact they coughed up an 18-point lead. Right? That's not good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, every team makes a run as college basketball. I get it. It's not good that they coughed up 18 points. Yeah, you get the W, but there are still plenty of things to clean up. And I said this in Around the Kingdom. Yes, let's celebrate the win, but there's still a bunch of different things that this team has to continue to kind of build on. So let's get excited about going 1-0 in conference, but let's not assume this team is going to run roughshod through the Big 12 because I don't know that anybody's going to run roughshod through the Big 12.
Every Joyce Nights. Happy anniversary, Joyce. Is Mikey Williams the real deal or just hype bait?
TBD.
He's good enough for Eric Lopez, with the 8th pick.
TBD. I mean, it looked like he got the backup point guard minutes. We were seeing Dior Johnson, Nils Mahosky. They did not play against Texas Tech. Mikey did. I like the fight he had. He went up for a good rebound. He kind of twisted his ankle on the landing. I love that. He looks like he's nervous still, like he's still trying to figure out his offense, right? And I think that's the
played.
Challenge.
When's he played?
That's a fair question. I think the challenge is when you have a player like Mikey, who is such a phenomenal player, kind of in a one-on-one setting, how do you then gel in a 5-on-5 setting? I think you've got to figure that part out a little bit, and you can only do that being on the court. So I think it's too early to tell whether or not he's all hype. He's obviously got skills and talent. How that blends and meshes with the entire team will be different. Now, if you were saying, hey, take any UCF player one-on-one versus anybody, Mikey may be the first pick in that situation, right? But in a 5-on-5 setting, it's going to take some time, I think, for him to figure that out.
I think the fact that he came in on the road at Texas Tech means Coach Dawkins and staff want to give him an opportunity to show what he can do because that could be a real big benefit if he can do more than just be hype. Just be a hype guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Robert, 2 letters, 2 words. Who has a better Big 12 winning percentage in 2025, Scott Frost or Johnny Dawkins? I'm going for 10-10 on Johnny, and I don't know that I see Scott not going to finish 500. because there's 9 conference games. So going
Yeah.
Johnny.
I'll go the volume on this one again. I'll go Johnny just because there's more opportunities than that Scott Frost will have.
Light mailbag this week. We encourage you to drop your questions again next week for our mailbag segment. All right, it's back in 2025 because I didn't spend the time over the holidays coming up with a new segment.
Reloaded too. This is a brand new Reloaded Brox. Charlie Hustle, promo code TEN1215 for 15% off non-sale items, but they do have some great sale items right now. Some hoodies on sale.
Am I allowed to create one of these boxes and throw my own questions?
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Alternate between,
sure. Yeah, okay. I mean, you want control? That's fine. Trey Stroke, control freak. Here we go. All right. Okay, here we go. Would you rather show up to an event overdressed or underdressed?
Would you rather show up to an event overdressed or underdressed?
See, look at this. 2025. What's in the box is delivering. Go ahead, by the way, TEN1215.
How underdressed though for the event? Like you should have worn pants and you wore jeans, kind of thing.
It depends. I mean, you show up to a wedding with jeans and a polo, and everyone's in tuxedos.
That's tough.
And suits. Or you show up to a wedding in a tuxedo and everyone's in jeans and flip-flops. Which one would you rather be?
I'm not likely to show up overdressed to anything. However, if given the choice, I'd probably show up overdressed because people would say, hey, you're looking sharp, versus looking slacker.
Yeah, look, I think everybody's on the same page. Overdressed, I think, is the only answer here. Except for Robert, who says you were underdressed tonight.
I am.
And of course,
by the way, this is a hoodie. I'm hot as hell. Salty language. Now we're in the 10 o'clock hour.
10 o'clock. Wow. Patrick Nurse, maybe. Wear a fedora. He said. You can't go wrong.
Patrick Nurse styling all the time, no matter the venue.
This man, I don't know if he works for ESPN. He is literally on every basketball broadcast. I don't know. Finds him. I don't know how that happens. Every game, you can just set we should do a drinking game as a Suns audience. Next time there's a game Sunday and you see Patrick Nurse, finish whatever drink you have at that point. Because you might be hammered by the time the game's over because he typically gets 2 or 3 cutaways during the entire game. I think overdressed is the answer, by the way.
If given the opportunity, have a conversation with Patrick Nurse. Guy can talk about anything. It's always a good conversation. I always enjoy talking.
Well, if you can get him off the TV for crying out loud, the guy's a gosh darn TV. I almost said another curse word. He's a gosh darn.
Oh,
TV
hey, that's.
I said gosh darn. I said gosh. I said gosh darn. Is there a limit to? So are you more inclined to for weddings? Do you want to be comfortable? What's your take there? Eugene,
wedding would be enough to make me uncomfortable. It wouldn't matter what I was wearing.
How many suits do you own? How many suits does Trey Shelko have in the closet?
2.
What's the right number of suits for a guy to own? I think I have 2 as well. I may actually have a third, but I don't. It's not a matching suit.
We'll wear that next week. I'm going to be overdressed.
Yes,
overdressed as opposed to underdressed.
Well, Patrick, you need to renegotiate. Call our friend Michael Hoffman and Hoffman and Greg Garcia. He can get you some royalties there. Patrick Nurse is the P. Look at this, Matt Dolan. You may win comment of the year, and it's only the second day of the year.
Is the PN?
Dolly says 3 suits minimum.
That is the lie. Dolly, you own 3 suits.
Are you uncomfortable at any wedding?
Oh, I hate them.
Wow.
God, I hate them.
A bonus question. I don't have this. What's the problem with the wedding?
I'd rather go to a funeral, for crying out loud. No, horrible. Terrible. Half these things end in divorce anyway.
Did you just kill somebody? You want to go to a funeral? What? What's uncomfortable about the wedding? It's 2 people pledging.
All contrived nonsense. No.
You've even got Andrew Cherico questioning you.
All right. Especially if it's an away wedding, you got the flight, you got hotel,
destination wedding. Yes, that's a lot of look at me, Louie.
I'd rather just give you the money so that I don't have to go to all of it.
That's what I'm going to.
In fact, there's several. Here's a big check.
Well, then how do you feel about renewing the vows?
renew away. Just don't invite me and don't make it a gift giving occasion. Do whatever the hell you want. I just don't want to be there for it. No.
So then you take no offense if nobody invites you to a wedding ever.
I don't want to be invited to anything.
Okay.
That's all right. Just because I'm in this little box does not make me an extrovert. I'm more introverted. No, I'm better in small groups of people that I know, casual conversations.
Is it the dancing? How are you at the electric slide?
No, I don't want to dance.
Have you ever done the electric slide?
Probably.
Electric. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, probably at some point at some stupid wedding I went to. I know.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well,
yeah.
but 10 p.m. Trace is a lot different than 8 p.m. Trace. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, this is the Trace you normally see when the show goes on.
That's also, well, I've never heard you rant against weddings. That's
well, it's not. We're a UCF sports show. That's what the hell's wrong with this. What's in the box? What's you're getting in here?
I mean, you want sports questions? I can't. I mean, what was your sports?
I don't do well with those in around the
in
kingdom either. When you
sports
ask
moment of the
questions.
year, what do you got?
Sports moment of the year
in 2024. Yep.
UCF beating Kansas. Never.
Just
never
in all of sports. All of sports.
For UCF.
Yeah. No, all sports. No.
Oh, I don't know. That one's pretty good for me. I mean, considering my time with UCF to Kansas. I mean, geez, it's huge.
Instead of Trace, invite Mario.
Mario's probably just going to rando weddings. He's out and about. Mario's been to some weddings. What is table 12? What does this reference mean?
I think that's like
the room. Is that
the back, like last table in, like where we put Trelko. I don't know. Put him with Aunt Nana, and then you're at table 2.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. The number of these you don't have to worry about seating me. I'm not going. So
I kind of need everybody out there who's going to get married now to invite Trace to a wedding.
No.
Like everybody out there, if you're single and you're thinking about popping the question, I'm going to need you to invite Trace to your weddings.
All right. It's warm in this hoodie. I have paid my dues. I have eaten pancakes. I have done push-ups. Judge away at the quality of those push-ups. I have worn the hoodie. I have put up with my nephew. But I do want to know what he is going to have to do because UCF is going to defeat Colorado on Wednesday at the arena. So what will he have to do? I need to hear from you. We will have a wager that we'll talk about in next Thursday show. I want to thank Nick Patti for kicking off our 9 o'clock hour on Sons of UCF Live and Bowtie Ben for being with us. For Adam Eaton, I'm Trace Trelko. Go Knights!
Charge on!
I'm Mackenzie Middleton. Thanks for watching Sons of UCF.
KZ. He's come back. I can't wait to